here. I risk everything. I leave everything behind. Salut. Oh, no,
Или потому что я сильна.
Ljudi, imam jedno pitanje za vas. Tko od vas misli da je vjernik, ali ono pravi? Tko od vas uistinu vjeruje?
Ja sam Danijela. Dobrodošao.
Hvala. Jel sjeo?
Oče naš koji jesi na nebesima, sveti se ime Tvoje. Dođi kraljevstvo Tvoje i budi volja Tvoja, kako na nebu, tako i na zemlji.
Kruh naš svakdanji daj nam danas i pusti nam duge naše.
Kakvi su incidenti?
Ne znam, kakvi incidenti?
Si ti musliman?
Nisam.
A jesi katolik kao i mi?
Ništa se ti ne brini. Čak i ako ti nećeš njemu, naći on put do tebe.
Ti znaš šta si uradio?
A kako su tamo svi vjernici, pa što ne možeš i ti malo biti?
Puši kurac, jesi čuje?
Da niko nije takao ranu dok se i gore ne pomoli.
Ti. Zagledaj se u sebe i onda ćeš pronaći ono nešto.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another session of Film Talk in Europe on Screen 2021 with me. I'm Awalnya, the festival co-director of Europe on Screen 2021. And right now we are joined by, I hope I pronounce his name correctly, Ognjen Sviličić, the director of The Voice. Good morning to you, Ognjen. Please teach me how to pronounce your name.
Yeah, it's good. It's Ognjen Sviličić, actually, but you pronounce it pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. All right. Before we begin our conversation, I would like to remind our audiences that you can either join us via Zoom or via YouTube. And if you have any questions, you can type in the Q&A box at the right bottom of your screen, either in English or in Indonesian. If it is in Indonesian, I'll help translate it to English. And yeah, Ognjen, thank you so much for your time. I know it's Sunday and probably you have something else. So thank you to do something.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's really nice. It's an honor and a great thing to be able to speak with the audience from Indonesia from such a distance. So I'm really enjoying it. Thank you.
Thank you. And first of all, congrats on the film. It's a very solid drama. And it's a bit unusual coming of age story, if I may say so, because for us in Indonesia, your film opens up our view on something both that we are not familiar about, but also something that we also know of. First of all, we are not really familiar about the life of the teenagers in Croatia, and yet we are also familiar with the rise of radicalism. It is something that we are also dealing with. And given that this is a film with original screenplay, how did you come up with the idea to make the film, in particular with the story?
Well, usually most of the directors, or some of them that I like, especially from my region. One very known director from my region, he's long gone now. He was called Dušan Makavević. He said that every time when you make a movie, that you start with one picture, with one not a scene, but only with one situation, one picture. So that goes same for me. For every movie that I make, I start always with one picture that I have in my mind, and then around this picture I build the whole movie. The picture that I had in my mind for this movie was a boy who was, when everybody is praying, he is not. And just a picture of him being silent in the middle of the people who are doing something else. It was something that I wanted. It was a strong image, such a strong image for me that around this image I wanted to build the whole movie. So this is how I get the idea. I just got this image in my head and I was just following it.
And since you are, I would say, hooked on that particular image, and then eventually you decide that the story will focus on teenagers?
Well, I was, in a way, in the movies, this is something that I wasn't thinking particularly about, but I noticed that in my previous movie, usually the protagonists were teenagers, or there was family with a teenager inside with problem, or with one movie, teenager was traveling with his father, in another one, teenager just got beaten up on the street. So there's obviously I have some connection with that, and I'm not thinking about it when I was doing it. What I wanted to do, well, I think it's a quality when you're making a movie that you can put some fresh faces in front of the camera, and these children were never, more or less, they were not actors. They were never acting before. So for me, it was like a privilege and a kind of challenge to put such new faces, fresh faces in front of the camera. So maybe that was something that I also wanted to play with in this movie.
Was it hard to direct people who are not used to acting on screen?
No, because it was an ensemble movie. This is also some choice that I have made. When you're doing a movie with, like, let's say, 3 or 4 actors only in one room, I think then you have to be very precise, and then you have to have experienced actors, because only experienced actors can be able to spot the points in the scene where they must go up or down, you know. And non-professional actors, they're usually all the same all the time. This is something that you cannot change. You cannot. But when you have unprofessional actors, then you can do ensemble movies. So this was my first ensemble movie. And when you're doing an ensemble movie, maybe some actors are not professional, or they cannot reach such a phase as a professional actor, but they are playing among themselves. So these dynamics among these actors are creating the scene. So there is like 2 ways that I'm usually doing with actors. I have 2 actors, and they are really concentrating on something, or you have like this ensemble movie, and each of the actors brings something little in the scene, and all together it seems like a solid scene.
Like, were they grouped together during the filming? Like, you put them in a dorm, or perhaps staying in the same place together?
Well, that was like that for practical reason, obviously, because it's like when you're making a movie, we are not having a big budget, so we were putting them in a dorm, and they're all friends. They're all from the same city as I am. But the thing is that when you're talking about these dynamics among non-professional actors, it's more or less when you're working in this situation, you always have to have some action on which this young actor can concentrate. You know, when you're doing a movie with all experienced actors, they can talk about something they feel, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But in this situation, you have to have really good and really solid action on which they can rely on. For example, now you are swimming, or now you are eating, or now you are fighting, or whatever. You know, that this is the way to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, and in particular, because the story is about, it's sort of like a Goran versus the world, and this part of the world, they really have to bond together, and they really have to show the unison, like the unity among them.
Yeah, there is something what I experienced at the end of working with this movie, which I didn't expect. But for me, it was in a movie that in the end of the movie, you have kind of feeling that you had seen a variety of fresh and young faces. This is, you know, this is when you're making, probably when you make a movie with kids, this is some quality that you have at the end of the movie that you didn't expect it. It's something new for me, you know, like it's a part of their life was conservated in this movie, so to speak. It's part of their growing up, you know. So actually the part of their growing up was also, a small part was also in this movie, right?
And you mentioned that, you know, the film was made on a small budget, and given that the country Croatia is a Catholic country, I mean, sort of. How did you get the film eventually made?
It's not such a, I mean, maybe I will have problem having another one made, but like in most of the Europe, it functions through the film funds, and film funds, so basically film funds are not so, they are connected with government, but they're not so tightly connected to government. So people who are deciding on the films are usually people who are artists like me. So more or less, it's not, and to be honest, it wasn't in this film. You cannot particularly see Catholic Church, and even this priest is not particularly mean person. On contrary, he would like to help. So it's not more or less about Catholicism. It's more or less about conformism, about finding a head for yourself if you're a young person. But as you know, as everywhere in Europe, we are functioning through film funds. Usually, there is some movies who are made out of the film funds. It's also possible today, especially with all this. With all this technology coming on, but it's more or less you apply to the film fund, and then if you are lucky and if the script is good enough, you have your money. And then what is extremely important is for the small countries in Europe, you connect with other countries. So for example, I don't know, for the last movie I had DOP from France, or for this movie I had people from staff from North Macedonia, or I take some actor from Serbia and so on. This is the way that movies are made in Europe. So it's state money, usually public money, as you will say, like you have public health, we have like public, and you connect a couple of small countries, and that's how it's done.
And speaking of the actor, of course, the actor playing Goran, I hope I get his name correctly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yakov,
yes. This CC we are pronouncing always Ch, so this is confusing a bit. So I'm Ognjen Sviličić, Franco Jakovčević. This is yes.
I see. Okay. He gives an outstanding performance as to portray a character that does not speak much. So he relies on his ability to convey emotions without words, and he is sort of like the observer in this case that represents many of us. So how did you cast him, and how did you shape this character? What did the actor also give some sort of like input or involvement in shaping the character?
Yeah, definitely. It is. He is young, but he's now studying acting, of course. And I found him through audition. But it wasn't hard because there are a couple of these, almost in every high school, you have something like called drama group where kids are playing. So this is not something lately, not before, not so, but lately in last 10 years, it became to be so popular. So this is the way I cast him. And working with him as an actor wasn't so hard because there was, I believe that every actor finds in some part of the character in himself. So he found this stoicism in himself and work with it. So, for example, if I tell somebody that he will play, I don't know, a policeman who is really aggressive, you must find this part of the character in yourself. This is how it's done. So he obviously found something in himself which this film provoked, and then he put it outside. This is how usually can work with actors. Of course, I think that every time when you have a person acting somebody, in the end there will be this person that won't be the actor, you know. So at the end, what we are putting in front of the screen is the characters of the persons that we pick. So I picked Goran as a character, knowing that in him there are some characters, there are some qualities that I want to promote in my film. There are some basic things which are already in him. If it wasn't like this, he wouldn't be able to act in this way.
And I want to talk about one scene that I find it powerful, of course, by around 30 minutes in the film, is the scene in the canteen where Goran refuses to pray and the teacher punishes the entire students by not eating. Of course, this is something that is similar to the image that you mentioned earlier in our conversation, where it inspired the film. But when you take that inspiration and you want to execute it as a part of the film, what was the process like in crafting that scene?
Well, usually when you make a scene with lots of people, usually you first try with the people, you divide actors in group, and you divide the scene in parts. So you cannot start with whole scene. You start with the small piece, and then you connect these pieces. So basically what you do, you have your rehearsals with the actors. They are reading the text, and then what you're trying to do these dynamics among them as realistic as possible. So usually when people talk in our normal talk, we interfere with each other. You know, it's not like theater is a little bit different, because in theater everything is spoken and you need to hear everything. So in film, especially in this situation, you interfere with each other. If you're doing a scene like this, you must realize that that creates lots of problem especially from the sound department, and sometimes for the DOP. So what I did is that I took a rehearsal and I shoot the whole scene from the different angles, but I wasn't doing in something what directors are calling blocking. So I wasn't doing a scene shooting only one character, then shooting another one, and then combining it in editing room, because in this way I will lose the dynamics. So in the whole movie, these dynamics among the actors were the most important for me. In able to create that, I have a special deal with DOP, the director of photography, and he says, we are going to shoot this movie without lightning. Because there was artificial light. Of course, we had some lighting during the night scenes, but very little. But if you use the lighting, then you use ability to move camera everywhere. And with kids who are not professional actors, they usually move. They cannot control their moves. You know, they are free. So to be able for them to be free to move and to speak, we created an atmosphere where you have this scene shot only from one or two positions, where you can move camera everywhere, and in situation that I will not be editing that in a normal way, like blocking, and I will just putting the longer pieces, chunks of this scene into the movie. So I think every movie is specific. So for every movie, as a director, I try to invent the best way how to shoot this movie. You know, like, so for this movie was that no lighting, camera from the not hell, it's called the rig, and no editing in a classical way. To be able to give the young actors the opportunity to really play, not to be stiff, because there are, of course, there is the worst thing that could happen to me it will be that these young actors got scared and then they got stiff. So I was just trying to avoid that.
I sensed a certain rhythm in that scene when the teacher starts reading the news, asking the student to come in, and then she speaks. The teacher speaks in certain tone. For some people, it's a persuasive tone, but for many people like Goran, it can be intimidating as well, and perhaps for the students. And then when students respond, I don't know, there is like a sense of a certain rhythm in that scene, which makes it riveting to watch. Is this something that you already thought of when you're writing the scene?
Yes, this thing, it's not actually created very much into editing room, some of it normally, but actually you must create that during the shooting. So basically, when you have lots of children inside, and the basic things when you're doing this kind of thing, the rhythm is not created by the main actor. Rhythm is created by the thing that you see or hear in background. So lots of this background, I think the biggest challenge in director is it's not actually directing an actor. If you have Robert De Niro and directed him, you give him a few words and he understands it and he acted.
Yeah.
What is really hard to direct is the second or the third plan behind him. So this is something that you play with to create certain atmosphere, because you try to, for example, you have a picture in your head. How do, let's say, Sunday morning in cafe in Zagreb looks like, and then you put all the crew and all the extras and try to recreate this feeling. So actually, I was trying to recreate this feeling inside of I was trying to remember how my school days look like, and I'm trying to recreate this feeling. So you have to give each person something to do. For example, you are chewing a gum and you're putting a gun under the table, and you are talking to him about last night football game, and each of them has some, and then you see how the crew is moving, and with that you create the atmosphere. With that you create that rhythm, and to be able to do that, you cannot reconstruct every little way. So we were actually setting a scene and then shooting it as a documentary. So we were setting a scene, everybody has something to do, actors have the lines, we have like what is the reason for the scene, but then when that was done, we took it as a piece of reality and shooting it as documentary filmmaker will put the camera where he can, and we even try to recreate this documentary feeling, not putting the camera in the best possible position, but somewhere like you are like a bit voyeurish camera, doing a little bit of that. So this is the way. If you're talking about rhythm, it wasn't creating in editing room where usually rhythm is created. It's created among actors on a set.
Okay. And speaking of school, that you mentioned, it doesn't look like a school that I find in many films from Eastern European countries. The school looks new, modern, polished. It's almost similar to the kind of school that we see in modern American films or British films. How did you decide the look and the set of the film?
Well, for me, it was like this. For me, this whole... I was thinking that all this setup of torturing young person with something that he doesn't want to do, and all this setup, like you have a feeling that this community is strangling him with their ideas, and he doesn't want them. I think it's even scarier when it's something which is new, polished, and not so
right.
So,
okay.
You know, like as you said, you made your point right. Most Eastern European movies have, of course, old school, because this is a picture of Eastern Europe, how people imagine how it looks like. It's a little bit shabby chic and so on. But I didn't want that. First of all, it's not so true, because Catholic Church has enough money to make something new. On other hand, I wanted to create the atmosphere where this is actually a place where lots of people go on vacation in this part of Croatia. And I wanted to create the atmosphere where there is a nice weather, there is a nice school, there is you can swim. They have no problem with money. Everything is provided there, but except for this one thing. And this one thing is for me like the most important thing, the question of freedom of personal beliefs and so on. So this is why I didn't want to put this. I didn't want to paint this school as a prison or as something that you want to escape from. Yeah. I wanted to paint this school as something that you would like to be actually, except because this is a trick. This is something that this is, for example, like in the beginning, mother is esquiring his son to his school, and the idea is that for the parents, this school should appear very nice, very modern, and very like a place where you want to be, very safe. But in fact, it's not. It's like hell, but hell camouflaged in something nice, let's say.
So it's a trap.
Yeah, you can say definitely it's a trap.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the context of the film, because for me personally, Goran represents many of us who are leaning towards more rational thinking and logical thinking in perceiving life, and yet when we encounter these people who are devoted to religion, we are often labeled as non-believer, and this is, I believe, also featured in some scenes where Goran was questioned about his stand, but still Goran does not want to conform to the religious ideas, and sometimes he has confused himself. Is this the sentiment that many young people in Croatia are also experiencing these days?
I think. I'm not so sure. This is something that I was experiencing during my age, and I was trying to recreate this feeling that you are not, when something is said to you, that you are taking that with certain, you are not believing at all somebody said to you at first. You are questioning that. So the questioning, the truths that are all around us are important things. It can be related to the God, religion, it can be related to politics, it can be related to social or sexual behavior. But the fact that you are questioning something was the idea for me. And I think it can happen through all the, I think this special feeling of it's like you always have in I think this is the feeling of you have like a flock of sheep, and there's always one sheep running somewhere else, looking for something else. It's a normal human behavior from beginning of humanity. I believe there was always somebody not actually believing in something. Sometimes these persons became known scientists, artists. Sometimes this person became I don't know, alcoholics or drug addicts. Depends on the luck also, and also depends on how much this person who is maverick, maverick is somebody going from the flock somewhere else, is what abilities he has to fight it. It's for me the question for me was how this person like Goran, what will become of him in life? Will he be able to understand that sometimes you must bend and sometimes you must fight? This is a question of growing up. So if you're not a grown-up person, you will end up something different. But without this kind of personalities, we wouldn't have probably some great scientists like Leonardo da Vinci or Nikola Tesla. Or on another hand, we wouldn't have like rock idols like I don't know, Sid Vicious or Kurt Cobain. So you can imagine that Kurt Cobain was in his school probably something like the same. So this is this kind of personalities, and always when you see this personality, you'll know that he will have his pet. He will have his special pet in life. So for me, that was homage to these personalities, and it was really interesting. Film premiere in Busan in South Korea, and some few people from Koreans came to me and says, well, I was like that in high school, or I had my friend who was like that in high school.
Yeah.
So there was
Yeah.
always one like this
Yes.
in every school,
Mhm.
army, or whatever. So
Yeah.
this film was about this one person who is like having his own way of or thinking about things.
Yes, and who is often different from others because he keeps questioning, although he may not be vocal about it. And he is
Yes,
very.
you're right. Yes, he's not vocal about because he cannot articulate what he's feeling.
Yeah.
He's not intellectual. Some people can articulate. If my character will be able to articulate that, maybe he will be also wise enough to bend, to say a prayer and continue with his living. But because he cannot articulate, nobody give. He had such a hard time during this time.
Ognjen, we have one question from our audience here. It is in Indonesian, so let me translate it to English for you. The question is, I just finished watching the film just now. It's a very unusual film. It can be controversial if it is screened publicly in Indonesia. One question that I have after watching the film, what do you think the voice that Goran heard in the school so that he does not want to believe in God? This one is from Leonardo Chandra.
Excuse me, can you just repeat? Something went wrong with the internet, the last part.
I see. All right. Okay. The question is, one question I have after watching the film, what do you think the voice that Goran heard in the school so that he does not want to believe in God?
It's something, well, at the end of the film, he's like hearing something. It's kind of the voice in this particular moment means that of course they're always playing with in a Bible, the most important book in Christianity. There is always somebody hearing a voice from the God. Okay, so for myself, I was thinking that Goran was hearing his own voice, so
I see.
So he was, something inside of him was telling him what to do. This is this voice that we hear inside of us, who is giving our moral, and this voice is creating our personality. So basically, what he hears is his voice, and his voice is unique, different from other voices. And this voice is probably telling him not to be conformist, not to be among the ones who are believing in something that you are not questioning. So I believe, yes, it is usually, when you're talking about the voice, usually for the artist, if he's special, you can say that he has or she has her own voice. So okay, so the Goran voice is unique. So my idea was, okay, this is a unique voice. So this is what he's hearing all the time in himself. So that's why the film is titled like this also.
I see. And the film was world premiered in Busan, and then when it was screened in the home country, what was the audience reaction?
Well, for this kind of movie, you don't have such a big audiences, but it wasn't controversial because I think people are not. Because it wasn't directly attacking it. It didn't have some controversial scene. It was like discussing about religion, but it was of course criticizing, but it wasn't. In today's world, when you can pick anything from internet, so it's really hard or almost impossible to make something that can arouse anything. But I think it was. But it was screened, of course, on television, and there that you can like really a huge audience, and I think the audience of this film were mostly among teenagers who were kind of pleased to see that there is possible to have different view on something that everybody must agree on, for example, religion or politics or whatever. So I think it was kind of encouraging for the younger audience to have something that, okay, if you are the one who are not, this film could be encouraging for the people who are growing up and thinking about how to deal with conformism. Should I listen to everybody else, or should I try to do something what I think it's right? Yeah, so it wasn't problematic. It had some kind of great audience on during the television screening, and most of it, that was it. So it didn't bring some big political or social issues, let's say.
So overall, the film was well received, and it deserves that positivity.
Yeah, actually, yes. Actually, it was
Yeah.
really well received in home country.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ognjen. That's about it for our film talk or Q&A. But before we leave, let's take a picture together. So I will ask my colleague, the technical host, to guide us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mas Naval. So everyone, we will do the photo session. Please look at the camera and show your best pose and smile.
I will try to do that. Thank you.
I will count to 3. Okay, let's do it right now. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Let's do it once again. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Well,
thank you,
thank you so
Fina.
much.
Thank you, Ognjen. It was a great talk, and I hope you have a good Sunday ahead.
Thank you. I was enjoying this Sunday talk. It was really nice way to start Sunday, and it was nice to speak to somebody from Indonesia. I was there for a long time ago, and always had in my I was in Bali a long time ago, and I had beautiful memories from there. And so I'm saying hello to Indonesia and Bali. And
thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hope to see you in person someday. Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Yeah.
So that was our conversation with Ognjen Sviličić, the director of The Voice. You can still watch The Voice in Europe on screen in Festival Scope. The tickets are still available. And I would like to thank our media partner for this film, Whiteboard Journal. I'm supposed to pick one from the Q&A yang akan mendapatkan merchandise. Jadi Leonardo Chandra, silakan, nanti akan dihubungi oleh Europe on Screen. Coming up next is the film talk with the director Let There Be Light, Marko Skop from Serbia. Sorry, from Slovakia. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm Noval signing off. Goodbye.